Something is happening right now that Melania Trump did not see coming. Something that is keeping her up at night, that is making her legal team scramble, that is making her advisors panic, and that no amount of billion-dollar lawsuit threats can stop. The walls are closing in from every direction. In the courtroom, Michael Wolff is tightening the legal vice with subpoena power and deposition rights. In the media, Ben Meiselas, one of America's most formidable legal minds and the host of the most watched news channel in the entire country, is publishing investigation after investigation, video after video, revelation after revelation. And right here on this channel, we have been doing our own digging. We have been going through the Epstein files. We have been following the money. We have been tracking the connections, and we are not stopping, because the American people deserve the truth. And the truth, no matter how hard Melania Trump tries to bury it, is surfacing every single day, drip by drip. And today we are going to lay out the full picture of exactly what is happening, why it matters, and why Melania Trump has every reason in the world to be panicking right now. Let us start with something that tells you everything about where we are in this story. Ben Meiselas, the co-founder of MeidasTouch, a man who has built the most viewed news channel in America from the ground up, has been publishing a series of deep investigative videos about Melania Trump. Those videos have now crossed 50 million views, 50 million people watching, 50 million people learning things that Melania Trump and her team have spent years and enormous amounts of money trying to keep out of public consciousness. 50 million people who now know things about the world Melania came from, the people she was surrounded by, and the questions that her own public statements have failed to answer. And rather than engage with any of it, rather than hold a real press conference and take real questions, Melania Trump is hiding. Meiselas is now openly reporting that she is hiding from his coverage. And when the First Lady of the United States is hiding from a journalist, that is not a sign of innocence. That is a sign of fear. Now let us talk about who Ben Meiselas actually is, because if you do not know him well, you need to understand exactly what kind of force is now trained on Melania Trump. Ben Meiselas is not a blogger. He is not a commentator making things up from behind a keyboard. He is a formally trained litigator. He spent years in some of the most complex courtrooms in America, handling high-stakes civil litigation. He was the lead lawyer who represented Colin Kaepernick in his landmark lawsuit against the entire National Football League. Think about what that means. He took on one of the most powerful and wealthy sports institutions in the world and forced them to the table. He knows how power operates. He knows how powerful institutions try to crush individuals. He knows every trick in the playbook. And today, he is a law professor at the University of Southern California's Gould School of Law, teaching the next generation of lawyers exactly how these systems work. What makes Meiselas uniquely dangerous for Melania is not just his legal expertise. It is the combination of that legal expertise with extraordinary media reach. He does not just understand what these allegations mean legally. He knows how to explain them to millions of ordinary people in plain language. He knows how to connect the dots in a way that is clear, compelling, and devastating. And he does it every single day, with his name attached, on the record, publicly, knowing full well that Melania Trump's legal team could come after him at any moment. He does it anyway. Because like Michael Wolff, like us here on this channel, he believes the public has a right to know. And that combination of legal knowledge, media power, and personal courage is exactly what makes him so dangerous to the carefully constructed image that Melania Trump has spent decades building. Here is what Meiselas has been uncovering, and here is why every new video he publishes represents a new nightmare for the First Lady. At the center of his investigation is a name that keeps coming up, a name that Melania herself has acknowledged, a name that is now appearing in contexts that nobody in her camp wants the public examining too closely. That name is Paolo Zampolli. Zampolli was a modeling agent. He ran an agency that brought young European women and girls to America, promising them modeling careers. He threw parties at a venue in Manhattan called the Kit Kat Club, wild parties, according to multiple accounts. Parties where wealthy and powerful Manhattan businessmen would meet the young women Zampolli had imported from Europe. He would help these women with their immigration paperwork. He would open doors. He would make introductions. And according to Melania Trump herself, he was the man who introduced her to Donald Trump at one of those parties in the late 1990s. Now here is where Meiselas' investigation becomes genuinely explosive. Zampolli, the man who brought Melania into Donald Trump's orbit, the man who helped her with her paperwork, the man who was present at the very beginning of this story, has been bragging publicly that he is in the Epstein files, not denying it, not distancing himself, bragging. The man who introduced Melania to Donald Trump is in the Epstein files and is proud of it. And when Meiselas digs into Zampoli's world and who surrounded him, what he finds is a network of connections that keeps pulling the Epstein story closer and closer to people who are now inside the White House or closely connected to it. But the revelation that has sent shockwaves through this entire investigation, the one that Meiselas described as a witness Melania feared most, involves a woman named Amanda Ungaro. And this is where the story becomes something that no spin doctor, no fixer, and no billion-dollar lawsuit threat can make disappear. Amanda Ungaro dated Paolo Zampoli for 19 years. 19 years. She had a child with him. She was present at Trump events throughout his first term. She attended gatherings at Mar-a-Lago. She was in photographs alongside people who are now at the highest levels of American power. She saw things. She knows things. She was inside this world for nearly 2 decades. And here is the detail that makes her presence in this story so significant. Amanda Ungaro arrived in the United States when she was 17 years old. She was brought here by a man named Jean-Luc Brunel. And Jean-Luc Brunel, for those who do not know that name, ran a sex trafficking operation for Jeffrey Epstein. He died in a French prison, reportedly by suicide, under circumstances that many people find deeply suspicious, in the same way that Epstein's own death remains deeply suspicious. So the woman who spent 19 years alongside the man who introduced Melania to Trump was herself brought to America as a teenager by one of Epstein's own traffickers. And Meiselas is reporting that this woman, Amanda Ungaro, may now be cooperating with Democrats on the House Oversight Committee. And then came the message. A message that Meiselas revealed publicly and that reads like something from a political thriller, except this is real. Ungaro reportedly sent a message that said, and these words need to be heard clearly. I was around you for 20 years. You knew I was inside. I stayed close to your family, your mother, your father, not because of you, but because of them. So shut your mouth when speaking about me because I will expose everything I know. That message, directed apparently at Melania, from a woman who was inside her world for 20 years, who knows where she came from and who she was connected to, represents something that no press conference denial can neutralize. That is not a threat from an enemy. That is a warning from a witness. And witnesses, unlike journalists, can be compelled to testify. And now Meiselas is reporting something that makes this even more alarming. He says that attempts are being made to derail a deposition. That testimony from a key witness is being blocked, seemingly derailed before it can reach investigators or the courts. Think about what it means when someone in a position of power tries to stop a witness from testifying. Innocent people do not block witnesses. Innocent people welcome testimony. They want the truth to come out. They want people to say what they know because what people know will vindicate them. The fact that someone is apparently working to prevent this testimony from being heard tells you something profound about what that testimony might contain. And on top of all of this, Meiselas is now reporting that Melania Trump has hired a fixer. A fixer. For those who are not familiar with that term in political circles, a fixer is not a publicist. A fixer is not a spokesperson. A fixer is someone whose job is to make problems disappear, to manage information, to contain damage, to approach people who know things and ensure that what they know stays private. The fact that Melania Trump, the First Lady of the United States, has now reportedly hired someone whose job description is making problems go away tells you everything you need to know about how serious she believes her situation is. You do not hire a fixer when you have nothing to hide. You hire a fixer when the thing you are hiding is about to come out. Now let us bring this channel into the picture because we need to talk to you directly about what we have been doing and what we are committed to doing. We have been investigating the Epstein files. We have been going through documents, tracking connections, following threads that the mainstream media has moved past too quickly. And what we have found, what we have been bringing to you, and what we will continue to bring to you is a picture of concealment that goes far beyond one person or one lawsuit. Because here is what we believe is being hidden, and here is why it matters so much that people like us keep digging. The Department of Justice had the Epstein files. They had documents that named names, that described relationships, that could answer questions the public has been asking for years. And the evidence strongly suggests that those files were not released fully, freely, or transparently. Important materials were redacted, key names were obscured, connections that should have been followed were left dangling. And the question that has driven our investigation from the beginning is this: why? Why would the Department of Justice, which is supposed to serve the American people, hold back information about one of the most significant criminal networks in modern American history? Who benefits from that concealment? Whose names become safer when those documents stay hidden? And who in positions of power had the ability and the motivation to ensure that certain connections never became fully visible to the public? We are not going to claim we have all the answers today. What we are going to tell you is that we have been asking these questions rigorously, we have been following the evidence wherever it leads, and what we have found is deeply disturbing. The concealment appears to be deliberate. The redactions appear to be strategic, and the people whose connections are most obscured by those redactions are not ordinary citizens. They are people with power, people with resources, people who have demonstrated, through billion-dollar lawsuit threats and hired fixers and blocked depositions, that they will use every tool available to them to prevent the truth from coming out. Melania Trump stood at a White House podium in April and read a prepared statement about Jeffrey Epstein. She said she had no connection to him. She said he did not introduce her to her husband. She said she was never on his plane and never visited his island, and then she walked away without taking a single question. But here is what that statement actually did. It did not make the story go away. It made it impossible to ignore. Because when the First Lady of the United States feels compelled to hold an unscheduled press conference to deny connections to a dead sex trafficker, the first question every journalist in America asks is, what made her feel the need to do that right now? What was coming that forced her hand? And the answer to that question, the thing that was about to surface that prompted that statement, is what Meiselas, Wolff, and this channel are all working to uncover. There is also a documented email. It exists. It is public. It is in the released Epstein files. In 2002, Melania Trump sent a warm, friendly email to Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's longtime associate who is now a convicted sex trafficker serving a lengthy prison sentence. In that email, she commented positively on a magazine story about Epstein. She asked Maxwell to call her. She signed it with love. In her April press conference, she described this email as nothing more than casual correspondence, a trivial note, but casual correspondence with a convicted sex trafficker's closest associate does not typically include terms of endearment. Casual correspondence does not typically involve asking someone to call you, and casual correspondence does not typically appear in the files of a federal investigation into one of the worst criminal enterprises in recent American history. This is the situation Melania Trump finds herself in as of today. Michael Wolff is in federal court with subpoena power, actively seeking the opportunity to put her under oath and ask her questions she has never had to answer publicly. Ben Meiselas is publishing investigations that are reaching 50 million viewers and growing, peeling back layer after layer of the story of who Melania was before she became First Lady, who the people around her actually were, and what those connections suggest about what she knows. A former associate who was inside her world for 20 years has sent a message warning her to stay silent or face exposure. Attempts to block witness testimony are reportedly underway, which themselves constitute a story about obstruction. A fixer has been hired. The Department of Justice's handling of the Epstein files is under scrutiny, and this channel is investigating all of it and will not stop. What is remarkable about where this story stands is how many different pressure points are active simultaneously. Melania's team cannot focus all their defensive energy in one place because the challenge is coming from every direction at once. They cannot silence Wolff because he has the legal framework of the anti-SLAPP lawsuit protecting him. They cannot stop Meiselas because he has 50 million viewers and a law degree and is not afraid of their threats. They apparently cannot fully contain Ungaro because she has her own voice and her own platform and her own reasons to speak. They cannot fully suppress the Epstein files because documents are still emerging and journalists are still reading them. And they cannot stop this channel because we answer to our viewers, to the truth, and to the belief that the American people deserve to know what was hidden from them. Ben Meiselas ends every one of his Melania investigations with the same phrase. He looks into the camera and he says, "Tick-tock, Melania, your dark past is surfacing." And what is remarkable about that phrase is how literally true it is becoming. Because every tick of the clock brings another document, another witness, another revelation, another video, another court filing, another piece of the puzzle snapping into place. The picture that is emerging is not the picture of the silent, mysterious, elegant First Lady that was so carefully constructed and marketed to the American public. The picture that is emerging is of a woman who came from a world that overlapped significantly with one of the most criminal enterprises in modern history, who has connections she cannot explain away, who has made public statements that contradict documented evidence, and who is now deploying every resource at her disposal to prevent the full story from becoming known. We want to make you a promise today. This channel is going to keep investigating. We are going to keep going through the Epstein files. We are going to keep tracking the DOJ's handling of these documents and asking why certain things were redacted and who benefits from those redactions. We are going to keep following the money, the connections, and the timeline of events that brought the people now in the White House into contact with Jeffrey Epstein and his network. We are going to keep covering Wolff's lawsuit as it develops, because when depositions happen, when documents are subpoenaed, when people are forced under oath to answer questions they have avoided for years, this channel will be here to break it all down for you clearly and completely. We are going to keep covering Meiselas' investigations because he is doing extraordinary work and the public needs to understand its significance. And we are going to keep asking the questions that the people in power do not want asked because this is not just about Melania Trump. This is about whether the truth can survive in a country where the most powerful people can threaten journalists with billion-dollar lawsuits, hire fixers to manage inconvenient witnesses, pressure the Department of Justice to redact files that the public has a right to see, and use the machinery of government to protect themselves from accountability. If the answer to that question is yes, that power can do all of those things and get away with it, then something essential about this country has been lost. But we do not believe that. We believe the truth has a way of surfacing. We believe that documents leak, that witnesses talk, that journalists do not back down, and that 50 million viewers watching one channel and hundreds of thousands more watching this one represents a public that is paying attention and will not be satisfied with prepared statements and walked-away podiums. Tick-tock, as Meiselas says, and we will be here for every second of it. Stay with us. Subscribe if you have not already, because what is coming in this investigation is bigger than anything we have covered before, and we are just getting started.